Hi, everybody. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Girls Women podcast. You may know by the title, but today we're reintroducing and talking a bit more about our co-host here, our new co-host here, Miss Heather. And today's just a bit like it's just all about her, her life journey, her expertise, and just whatever comes out along the way.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that, Karina. I'm excited to be here and I'm excited to see where this journey takes us in terms of, like what we get to talk about moving forward with the podcast. Um, I guess to start off talking about myself, first of all, it's so awkward to talk about yourself. Like,
No,
let's
I
just
know
put it
this
out
is
there.
like
Like my name's Heather.
it's like I feel like whenever it's like you're talking about yourself, it feels like you're kind of like I don't know, it's like you're gassing yourself up and you're like, oh yeah, I do this, and this, and I don't know, it's just like awkward to talk about yourself. So which is like kind of strange that it's awkward to talk good about yourself in the same way, but like obviously like I don't know, I just never mind.
No, it's like a weird thing because when people ask you about yourself, it's like a listing of credentials
Mhm.
of like the place that you are in life, and it's like I'm just a human being walking in this earth, and my name is Heather.
Right.
What do I say? Oh gosh, but yeah. So I'm new at Healing Your Way. I'm excited to be part of the journey with everybody. I have been involved in the healing community for the vast majority of my life. Um, the spiritual journey became a love affair for me when I was in like the third grade. It was just something that was so interesting and fascinating. It just took off. Like my entire life changed its course as I found a calling towards understanding spirit generally in the way that it interacts with us as individuals, in the way that we interact with it as a collective. I've always found it fascinating from the astronomy of the galaxy to understand where our place is in space and also to understand our own consciousness in the vast ocean of awareness. It's been a profoundly healing and exciting journey for me.
And I feel like a lot of these things you're mentioning, I feel like it's kind of interesting how you got into all that stuff so early on because I feel like most of the time, I guess even talking to my mom, who also has been on here, she mentioned that like a lot of the things that she got into all that stuff kind of a lot later in her life, which is I just find it really interesting that you got into it in like third grade. How did it kind of like start?
So, my parents, is like a little bit about myself. I had a really rough upbringing. Um, my father got sole custody of me and my sister when I was very young. And oddly, during that custody battle, my at the time stepmother took me like across the street from the courthouse to a metaphysical store. And I remember walking into that space and reading like a book about Bigfoot and thinking it was the coolest thing I had ever experienced. And I went home with a little like divinational bag of moon face stones. And from that point on, I just thought that it was the coolest thing in the world. Anything from rocks, crystals, metaphysics, sacred geometry, energy healing. I was in it. So I spent the majority of the time being the youngest person in the room in every spiritual circle I found myself. So I would be doing like these crazy Andara crystal meditations. My mom would take me and I'd just be this rascal teenager. Same thing with our Course in Miracles group. We would go to a Course in Miracles and I would be 20 years old in a room full of 70+ year olds. It's just been my path.
But how many like I was gonna say how many times have you like I guess like growing up, how often was it? I guess I don't know why I was thinking about it, but I felt like I should ask like was it like in every week kind of like oh you went to different groups every week or was it like more like a monthly kind of thing?
It So I would say the majority of it was self-study, and then I would attend groups with my parents because I was young, and the internet didn't exist. So finding a spiritual community was a completely different experience than it was now. I can go and Google a sound bath and I can find one and go to it tomorrow. It was very different when I was young. I've also always been the kind of person that like jumps right in the deep end. So I just started researching and reading everything I could get my hands on, and that habit never stopped.
And just 1 second, sorry.
Hmm.
You can hear me, right?
I can hear you, yeah.
Just gonna double check this audio. Sorry. Um,
It's just low volume.
oh, is it?
Yeah.
Um, can you hear me now?
They're suggesting you move the mic closer.
How about now? Is this better? Is this good?
I can hear you fine.
Okay. Okay. What's your cat's name, by the way? I feel like I didn't ask.
I have two cats. This one is Fry. His full name is Philip J. Fry. And the other
Wow.
one, her name is Momo.
And have you always like I don't know this? Or were you always like a cat person, or were you like a dog person who turned to a cat person?
Having a cat was my dream. I had wanted to have a cat my entire life, and I didn't get to have one until I was much older. And
Mhm.
now I have two of my own, and they are basically my children. I'm obsessed with them.
Yeah, I also have like 4 cats, and when I think about it, like I have dogs now too, as you may hear throughout like the entire time, the audio, whatever. But okay, close. Okay, so maybe maybe I'll just say, okay.
There we
Uh,
go. Nailed it.
sorry. Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like even though I have dogs now, and I love my dogs, but I would still definitely consider myself like a cat person. And I think a lot of people say like, "Oh, I hate cats" all the time, or like I hate dogs. It's like I feel like it's always like one extreme or the other. But I feel like they're honestly pretty similar when I think about it, except for just dogs need a little more like you just gotta like let them use the bath whatever every now and then. But I feel like they're like when you really like sit with them, they definitely act like pretty similar. Like it's just I don't know. I just felt like there's a little bit of like too much extremes on whether they like one or the other. But I feel like cat people and dog people act very different. Sorry.
It's a personality thing. I don't
Yeah,
know. I was playing fetch with my cat this morning. It's been our daily ritual, so I don't know
my
if I'm
cats don't do
qualified.
that. All right.
I love animals. I worked at a holistic veterinary clinic for a while, and I adore them all. I think animals are such a gift to humanity, and I would do fine with 10 more cats and several dogs and maybe some goats and some chickens. Like that would be my ideal life.
So like a rural, like kind of farm life
Hmm.
kind of thing. I think that's valid. I used to want to live on a farm, and I don't think it's gonna happen anymore. But it's just not my path, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But also, you said you were into crystals, so I was like, I just wanted to ask, what is your favorite type of crystal, and like why, and what kind of attracts you to that?
So I would say my favorite types of crystals, the things that I work with, definitely change based on where I am, like what it is that I'm currently working on, what it is I'm going through mentally, physically, emotionally, what I'm processing in life. Um, Generally, I love celestials. Celestials is a formation of quartz. I should grab one to show you, but it's a formation of quartz that almost looks a bit like all of the points are coming up to the top and the points are layered. On a metaphysical spectrum, to get super woo, the celestials are said to hold ancient knowledge, so they're access points to cosmic information. On a more physical, tangible part of the spectrum, celestials can help you kind of tap into self mastery. I love them incredibly. I have a smoky quartz celestial that we use under my bed. I have a grid of crystals under the bed for sleep, and it's very grounding. And then I have another beautiful piece of a smoky citrine celestial that I use when I'm doing my creative process, when I'm writing or when I'm painting, or and I find it's just such a wonderful support tool.
Wow. I feel like when I feel like it's kind of interesting. And when did you said you got into crystals also in like around the same time, like third grade-ish?
Yeah, I mean, I was the kind of like toddler that would bring you like stones and twigs and rocks. So like anything that was like shiny and fun to hold, I was into. I've been using crystals very actively as part of a healing process, I would say for at least 10 years, maybe more than that. And
Wow.
have been using it as just like a study for longer than that. Um, I don't even know how I got into them at this point. It has been such a long time. But it's one of those things where the more you know, the less you know, because there's so many different
Yeah,
classifications of
it's the best
minerals.
way.
Yeah.
Because like I guess yeah. To be honest, like thinking about crystals, they're like there's got to be they're first of all they're not everywhere, but they're all at the same time they are. I mean, there's different like species all around the world, which is like it's like when you get into like the super classification names of like even like animal species, human species. There's just after a certain like even bug species, after you get to a certain point, it's just like okay,
Yeah.
I don't know anything anymore. But
Yeah.
and I
It's
know
insane.
it's. I also wanted to say I was thinking about this the other day because I know we talked about this like after last week. Um, you said you were into herbs
Hmm.
and being a medium or not. I don't know if medium was the term exactly, but I was kind of interested on those things a bit after last week. But
Yeah. So I studied herbalism through an online program. And before that, I started in deep meditation, just receiving information. It sounds like really, really woo when you talk about it outside of a spiritual community, but I started really deeply connecting with plants and with flowers. And I started kind of feeling my way through the process of making tinctures, flower essences, and crystal tinctures. The stuff that I was making was very energetically potent and honestly put me on my professional spiritual path. Hi. Momo is also a professional when it comes to spiritual healing. But when I started making and working with essences, um, at that point, it was when I left my corporate job and I got really deeply into it. I find that when you learn how to quiet your inner being and you work on your own sensitivity, you start to find that there's other layers of awareness that exist around you. It's like we live in a universe where all of these dimensions are sandwiched with one another. And there are genuine ways you can train yourself to be more in tune with what's happening outside of your peripheral awareness. So, without recognizing it, I was tapping into other thought forms, other awarenesses, other consciousnesses, and I just kind of listened. and I used discernment to see what was valid and what was not valid. And through study and through practice, I started developing my own line of flower essences and utilizing that as a service to support other people's mental emotional healing, making customized flower essence blends with a lot of local plant life. And it still is. It's a wonderful experience.
And I wanted to ask, I feel like I keep introducing my questions like that. I probably should stop. But
Ask away.
my first question was, how do you make these like flower essences? Unless that's like a house formula.
No, it's actually not a secret. It's at this point probably more quantifiable as a science, and people can find information all over the internet. Um, One of the first, I should say, original people to utilize flower essences as a healing modality was Dr. Richard Bach, who is the founder of the Bach flower essences, which are based out of England. And so I did a lot of research to understand Bach's method, to see what he did and why he did it. And I also did a lot of research with understanding crystal consciousness to layer in the crystals with my flower essences. So ultimately, what you're doing when you're making an essence or a tincture, you're utilizing clear water, and water holds memory. It's not a secret. There's a lot of science around it, around the hidden messages of water and the memory that water can actually hold, and it is absolutely fascinating if you start to do some research about how when you infuse water with messages, you can look at the crystals that are formed when you freeze it, and you can see a very distinct structure that appears when you infuse water with specific messages, specific songs, specific vibrations. So it's utilizing that same concept of infusing water with a vibration, except you're utilizing a crystal or you're utilizing a flower. There's a couple of different methods too, because if anybody's really into it, it should be well known that not all plants and flowers are okay to consume. Toxicity is a real thing, so you can utilize what's called an indirect method, is when you would use a clear bowl of water and then have another clear bowl of water inside of that bowl, so that whatever material you are making the essence out of never directly touches or creates contact with the water. Because what you're doing is you're infusing it with the frequency and with the vibration. It's the energy that you're looking for, the distilled version of that, not necessarily the plant or medicinal material. So once you generate those bowls of water, you can put them out in the sunlight and find a really fantastic place that's quiet, that's a good place for meditation, and allow the sunlight to infuse that, or depending on the crystal or the flower, potentially the moonlight, to infuse that water. It kind of, with the heat and energy of the heat and energy of the moon or the sun, infuses that water, and it kind of alchemizes it to be at its max potential.
Wow. And when you I guess not supply these to people, but whenever I guess you were saying you can kind of tell when somebody might or the right formula to use for different people. Can you always tell immediately, or do you have to talk to them a bit first and then you get that kind of feeling?
Sometimes it is an immediate thing. Sometimes it takes a bit of a conversation to see what that person is going through mentally, physically, emotionally. The person itself, the way that I've always worked with essences is that I defer to the empowerment of the person I'm working with, right? So it's not about me telling them what's wrong with them. It's about me understanding what they're facing as an individual and why they're facing it, where they came from. All of that is really important when it comes to understanding the way that you dose essences. It's like when you recognize that someone's personality is a culmination of everything that is happening to them or has happened to them, you recognize that the flowers and the crystals are supports to distilling that into life lessons or the capacity to overcome challenges. And what it is that you're doing is you're not like resolving a symptom, you're supporting that person into coming back into wholeness with themselves. So coming back into alignment with your spiritual core or the truth of who you are, of why you're here. And so sometimes it takes a minute because people can build up many, many layers against that and the world around them. And it can take a couple of formulations to allow somebody to let down those layers and let down those guards to support the actual revelation of who they are on the inside, and how then at that point the flower and crystal essences can support a deeper awakening.
Wow. So it's like, so like from what I'm like understanding, it's like something that can, and would you say it's like always for like something major? Would you say it's like the support is for like even like maybe a simpler, I guess, emotional challenge
Mm-hmm.
in there too?
Yeah. Yeah. In my personal life, when I feel like I'm going through a big transition or experiencing an emotional upset, I often rely on flower and crystal essences to support me in that moment. And then there's times where I see that the flowers and crystals can really deeply support higher understanding for people. So the wonderful thing about nature and working with natural medicines is that it kind of meets you where you are and invites you into stepping forward into something. Whoops.
Oh, are you okay?
Curious cats.
Oh God.
Oh goodness. So yeah, flower essences and crystal essences can be used on any layer of whatever it is that you're working through.
And have you ever had to like use the same like I guess formula, or is it like every single time it's always like a different formula for a different person, or is it like even for the same problem, it's a different formula?
It's completely dependent on the person. Some in basic Bach flower principles, the first 12 what he denotes as the first 12 healers in the basic Bach flower essences, they correlate to an individual personality. So why they are incarnated on this planet and what they have most to learn. So those are lifetime lessons. And then the flower essences after that help you kind of break down blocks so as to continue the cultivation of your soul's lessons, of your karma, of your spiritual path, whatever it is you want to call it. So I have found that in my own life and the people that I've worked with, there's certain flowers or certain crystals that are with them for their life. And then there's certain flowers, certain crystals that are there for kind of a season, for a transitional point, for a relationship lesson, for a career shift, that really support in the moment. And then I find that people always have the tendency to come back to the core of the essences, the tinctures that really resonate with them deeply.
And there's also a question: do they smell flowery or not?
No, that is one of the most common misconceptions about flower essences. Essences, as I said, are infusions of water. And then you utilize a preservative to make sure that water doesn't go bad. Because, like, when it comes to understanding microbiology, water goes bad really quickly. So
Yeah,
you need to be able to preserve it. And the majority, and I can't explain this, if anybody knows, please tell me because I've done so much research. The majority of what is used to preserve flower essences is grape brandy. But you utilize the alcohol as a preservative for that water. Now,
oh yeah, that's true.
there's other alcohols that could be used, and also as a non-alcoholic variant of that, people use vegetable glycerin. So no, they do not smell flowery, and it's always disappointing to people when they have the expectation that it's going to smell good, but it really, when you smell it, just smells like alcohol.
And like, is it something that like you keep on you at all times, or is it like a like a spray, or is it like something that you take with you, like not a pouch because it's like water, but like maybe in a container? Like,
Yeah. So it's a tincture. They can be made into sprays. I have absolutely done them in flower crystal essence infused sprays, but the primary utilizing of them and what you see on the market, like if you go on Amazon and Google Bach flower essences, you'll see little tincture bottles, and that's how people take them. The way that I dose them and I recommend to dose them is more with like a homeopathic mindset where you are displaying a certain experience and then you're utilizing that medicine as a way to support the resolution of that experience. So generally it's 4 to 7 drops a couple of times a day. You can increase the frequency depending on the severity of what it is that you're going through. Totally dependent upon like what your day-to-day experience is. But when I'm having a hard time, it's something that's part of my morning ritual. Like I put it in my cacao in the morning, or if I make tea, I put it in that in the morning.
you make cacao in the morning? Wait,
Yeah, girl,
outside. Wait. So, so how do you make cacao in the morning? Because I've been sticking to coffee and matcha.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. So I guess to piggyback on my passion of understanding the consciousness of plants, flowers, crystals, it as I got older in my life, it translated to understanding some of the shamanic medicines. So I sat in some medicinal shamanic ceremonies and started to understand plant medicine really at its core, animal medicine, depending on what it is that you're doing. And so as I did that and as I started developing more into that, cacao entered my life. Cacao is an incredible healing substance that is used in a variety of ways. You know, like in a basic health and wellness profile, you can put powdered cacao into a morning smoothie and it adds healthy fiber and makes it so your blood sugar doesn't spike. In a spiritual setting, cacao is a consciousness that is as profound as working with the essences, which can be part of a more extensive spiritual practice or a ceremonial experience. I utilize it in the morning, especially when I'm feeling a hormonal shift, to help mellow my day and to support emotional balance and to give myself just a quiet space to meet myself in my own personal practice in the morning. People use it as an alternative to coffee as well. Because of the theobromine in cacao, it actually acts as a gentle stimulant, so it doesn't spike you in the same way caffeine does, but it gives you sustained energy, which is a really fantastic thing for me, especially in the morning. So yeah, it's part of my daily. It's part of my daily ritual. It's very easy to work with in the morning.
so maybe I'm gonna have to make that switch. And like, just to ask, like, how would you explain like the flavor? And do you like usually drink it in like a water based mix or like a oat milk kind of base?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, in a ceremonial setting, you're probably going to have it more water based. When I have it as part of my morning ritual, I do add a little bit of almond milk and a little bit of cinnamon powder. There's a bunch of different recipes that you can utilize, spices that you can add. Some people really love putting a bit of cayenne pepper in for a nice hit. Ginger is a fantastic addition. Any kind of non-dairy milk, just like a little bit of it with the water, is going to give it a really creamy, really frothy kind of texture. And depending on the dosage that you're using, a ceremonial dose for cacao is about 42 grams. You never want to exceed, when you're working with ceremonial grade cacao, you never want to exceed 50 grams in a day because it can cause like significant digestive upset. So when you're working with a 42-gram dose, it it can be a little bit intense. Some people can find that it tastes a little bit earthy and a little bit bitter because you don't always have to add a sugar or any kind of sweetener. So it can taste really bitter and really earthy. When you lower the dose, when I often sit in group circles with people as a more sharing collaborative space, I use what I call a microdose, which is somewhere between 20 to 30 grams, which just kind of helps circulate your own personal energy and inspire creative thinking. And that tastes a little bit more It's a little less bitter, it's a little bit more creamy, and you can really get a lot of the like lighter notes of the cacao itself, depending on the bean that you're using, depending on the way that it was grown. Like some cacaos have different notes depending on the style of it.
Wow. I feel like I'm saying wow a lot, but this is like a lot of new like information. I actually didn't know any of that about cacao. I actually didn't even know that people like drank it like as like a morning stimulant, which is like kind of interesting. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I also had another question. So going back to like the flower essences, when was like the first time you like ever, I guess, did that for somebody?
Um, well, I mean, really, I was my own first client because I started utilizing it as a way to deepen my spiritual path and my own connectivity. And then I just started making stuff and giving it out. And I found that people were responding to it. And I think I was so prolific in making it and giving it out. I don't even remember who the first people were, but I remember the feedback. When I started using it a little bit more discerningly, I guess, in a more professional setting, um, people were utilizing it a lot when they were going through transitional spaces. If they were facing deep grief, a lot of times society doesn't teach us how to meet ourselves emotionally. Humans are kind of conditioned that they shouldn't feel. And if they feel anything, then there's something wrong with them, especially women, because God forbid if you're emotional, then you're crazy.
Hmm.
And the same resistance doesn't exist when you're working with natural elements. The flowers meet you where you are. So a lot of the people that I started working with in the beginning were working with the flowers to find more solace, more connectivity with themselves, um, finding an easier way to manage life instead of just coping through stress, finding ways to actually find resolve through stress. And the deeper it went, the more it kind of expanded into utilizing it as a very um, specific tool in energy work. So it's very, very applicable to where a lot of people, like problems that a lot of people have.
And do these people know that they like had these kinds of things going on, or was it like, or like did they go in with the intent of like using the essence for, these issues?
A lot of people never knew what flower essences were, and they were coming to me and they were saying to me how they were suffering from these problems, like they were having an emotional divorce or they were going through a relational issue and they couldn't understand what was going on, or they were seeking more purpose and more meaning out of life. And the more that I talked to them on a kind of consulting basis, the more I realized that essences could be such a support for them. And the more that I offered them to people, the more success those people had, the more they came back to me. And then we started creating more customized blends based on what people were going through in the moment. The great thing about flower essences is that they work and they have no contraindications. So it's kind of like a win-win, it's easy to experiment with it because you're not going to have a bad experience with it. And then I also found that in making custom blends, people had an intentional bottle that they knew they were finding relief in. So that in and of itself became part of the ritual to return to mindfulness and return to center. So people were receiving relief from the flowers and crystals, and then were receiving relief from the process of finding a medicine for them that they could access at any point in the day that they needed it and know that they wouldn't have any issues reacting to it.
So it sounds like at like through using these like essences, people slowly got like a kind of, I guess as you said, it definitely brought them closer to their inner self, and like they started to actually like feel out and figure out what did actually make them, feel better, I guess think clear of whatever was going on in their lives, which is kind of interesting that, like as you said, it then at that point you can definitely tell like, oh yeah, this is actually helping me out. I feel
Hmm.
like I don't know how to explain it, but it's just kind of interesting that as you were saying, like, you know, as people were coming back, they're like, oh, this helped me. Oh, this definitely helped me. I feel like then it becomes like a and not a scent recognizing because it doesn't smell flowery, but um, I just thought that was kind of interesting. Like, even if there's actually that makes it more interesting that there's no scent to discern, like, oh, this kind of scent helped me out. And it's more just like a feeling, I guess. It's quite interesting.
Yeah. I mean, the way that I facilitate anything when I'm working with people is very intuitive based anyway. Not that there's not science behind it, because there absolutely is.
Mhm.
But it's more of a feeling way of moving through life. It's just kind of who I am as a person, and that's what I offer to people as I support them in finding their own feelings, their own thoughts, their own sensations, connecting them with them more deeply so as to utilize their emotional body as a way to engage and flow through life instead of bypassing the very parts of life that are meant to make us who we are. And I found that repeatedly when people were coming to work with flower essences or crystal essences, they were finding more relief in their day to day moments. They were finding more acceptance with self. They were finding forgiveness for past experiences and past environments that may have hurt them. They were finding more confidence in being who they are, more purpose in moving more clearly towards who they've always wanted to be. And really, at the end of the day, they were developing really deep resources to consistently come back to center, which is honestly, through any practice, the key to any kind of success, is because at any point in life, you're going to get thrown off center. But having the resources to bring you back, that is what really, really creates sustained success and sustained growth. And that's what flower essences did for me and did for the people that I worked with.
And talking about this now, I kind of have two things I was going to say. Um, I forgot the first thing. So I guess I only have one thing to say. I was thinking about what we were talking about. And did you ever feel kind of out of place? Like maybe even like growing up, like because you were so in tune with all these things, like did it make you feel like you were out of place or not, or that you didn't fit in with your peers, like even growing up through like grade school, high school, college, and like so on?
Oh, my whole life, I felt out of place. I was taught at a very early age to mask who I was. So I just put on a mask of being happy, being positive, being, um, I don't know, I don't even know how to express it other than fake. And so I realized how isolating that was. And I never felt heard or felt understood. There was nobody growing up where I really met the depth of them and they met the depth of me. There was no witnessing, there was no right mirroring. I didn't even understand the word validation until I had gone through my trauma training. I think I was 27 at the time. 27 was the first time I ever understood the concept of validation. So a lot of my life was really isolated. And I think because I lived that, in some ways, I was really forced to connect with forces that existed outside of just human awareness. Because, like, what else do you do? Humans are social people. You
Right.
know, we want community. Um, and then as I grew and I learned more of who I was as a person, more of the gifts that I had as an individual, and I started talking about it to people, I found that other people also connected with the same things I did. And at that point in time, it was a really opening experience to develop friendships that really understood me and that were really into the same things I was into. And I don't think I had that experience until probably in my mid 20s.
It's almost like you had your own like sort of understanding and acceptance understanding your feelings kind of journey and like an acceptance journey of yourself and help other people through these like flower essences and like I guess because you went through it, you sort of understand like uh, I feel like if you went through something, it's easier to spot when somebody else is doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's why it definitely fits when you're talking about how all these other people are kind of ignoring their feelings or like not really giving themselves like
Mm-hmm.
time and a time and a place to like I guess live out their feelings and even like live in the kind of current period they're living in,
Mm-hmm.
which is I guess I would say it's a pretty fitting like profession. But although well profession, but I guess interest is a better word.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but um, um, I had another question, and now I don't have it. So it wasn't meant to come out today. Um, but I was gonna just talking about like, you know, about people like kind of ignoring their feelings. I feel like it's it's really like horrible how like you just hear everywhere. It's like, oh, you shouldn't feel this way, or you
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't tell them you feel like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it really just builds more and more people who don't really understand themselves, understand what they want. And I feel like most people go through life with like a plan. And there's nothing wrong with a plan, but I feel like if you're always relying on this plan and if something doesn't work out, then like I guess even in terms of myself, I would say that like whenever like any plans I have
Mm-hmm.
don't go right or they go off script, I feel like I find myself kind of getting a bit lost, which is why this is definitely something like really amazing for people in general because they're relying on the plan and not really relying on what they want, what they feel, and what they're thinking. Uh, I guess even if they're thinking, "Oh, I don't really want to do this plan anymore," but since I thought of it,
Mm-hmm.
um, and since I've decided to go this path, like even in like career situations, and I would say in like in terms of people I know and like maybe my friends at college, like a lot of like I guess some of them switched majors and they were I think I was talking to them, they're like, "Oh, I would have never thought um I was going to switch. I never thought I was going to be where I am right now." And a few of them were feeling kind of lost
Mm-hmm.
in terms of that because you're told that you have to figure everything out at this point. You have to think about it at this point. You have to know. But since you're not taught from a young age to actually listen to what your feelings are, and even in school, I feel like the
Mm-hmm.
whole thing is like, oh, stop. You can't say that. Or you have to act like this. You have to be like this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's it's a very contradicting society almost in a way that
Mm-hmm.
it's like that. Because they want you to know, but they won't teach you how to know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I I honestly believe that the lack of emotional awareness in our society is an epidemic. It is devastating and traumatic for everyone. And it's hard to heal through something that no one really has the answers of how to heal through. So much of our society is really based on this mind first way of living. Like exactly what you were saying. You have a plan, you stick to the plan, and you just do what your mind has orchestrated as the best way to get from point A to point B. But that's not life. Yes, we need to live, we need to chop wood and carry water. We need to be able to pay our bills and live as members of society, specifically for the logistics of it. But that is not life. Life is so much bigger than that. And I think so many people really have numbed themselves to their own inner rich experience because they've been taught this very boxed way of living that doesn't fuel you at all. And then you end up basically eventually in your life having a midlife crisis or a collapse point because someone can only live like that for so long. And then you go through years and years of therapy to try to figure out how you got to that point when in reality it's like nobody actually was asking you what you wanted out of your life. You know, you did what your parents said, you did what your society said, you did what your teacher said, you live with this authority outside of yourself, even in the spiritual field. You did what your guru said. You know, there's this outer authority that's telling you what to think, how to feel, and how to get through life. And the richness of the human experience comes from being in touch with who you are as a soul and letting that be your guide, letting your own intuitive heart guide you, and letting your mind be a creative asset to that, to problem solving. And because we're so disconnected with a more natural and intuitive process, especially as women, because that's how women naturally operate, we're so disconnected from that, it's devastating to all of us. And we are all suffering without even realizing why we're suffering.
Because whenever somebody, I just want to say this, whenever somebody says something about a woman being emotional or something, or women are emotional, they say it like it's an insult.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't find how that is insulting in any way. It's almost it's better to be more in touch with your emotions than out of touch with your emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like also, as you were saying, that nobody really knows the answer to how to figure these things out most of the time. And so it's like the blind leading the blind.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's probably why a lot of people get into their addictions and get so far off and maybe encounter like not so great situations in their lives because they just keep going down a rabbit hole. Oh, how can I fix myself? How can I feel better? I don't know how to feel better. I'm kind of stuck at my job. I'm stuck at this desk, whatever. And it's just really sad because it's like some people may want the help. And most of the time they want the help, and there's almost no one there to really get them out of the hole that they're in.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it leads to some people not really experiencing life and kind of just having a lot more like emotional regrets in their lives. Just really kind of, I guess, saying it's kind of rough right now. Hopefully there's some sort of, hopefully word they change, I guess, um, that can sort of help people be more in touch and with their emotions, with themselves, and even the things they like. Because thinking about this now, so many people I've heard hate their job.
Mm-hmm.
They hate what they're doing. They don't like, and some of them are stuck because they have these financial constraints and they're stuck. Oh, I need to put food on the table. I need to pay for my rent. I need to pay for my car. Like there's so many other things that people have to worry about that it's like they have to put they almost feel like they have to put themselves last when in reality it's almost better to put it's maybe it's not better, but it's just hopefully that it's better to put yourself first so that you can have the energy and have the mental willpower to push yourself through these hurdles, I would say.
Yeah. It's like for like lack of a better experience, it's like we as humans go through this karmic unfolding of our lives. You know, there's real challenges that we face. There's real conflict in our lives. There's real learning that happens. And that kind of stuff just is, it's part of being human. It's part of what life is guiding you towards. The power that exists within that is to have the capacity to go inside and to listen to your own emotional experience, to what is the way through that. That's how I see it. Like life is always going to be life, but you as an anchor in your own life have the capacity to hold yourself through any experience, developing emotional resilience and regulation through the process. And you can be a lighthouse of your own self-awareness to know what direction is right for you, to be able to still your mind down, to listen and to see around you the purpose that is showing itself to you. And I think like those are major skills that we as a society have lost. We didn't always lose them. I mean, the answers, the resources are growing as we grow in awareness, but our ancestors knew ways through these problems. If you sit out in nature and simply observe, nature can be such a huge reflection as a way to move through the problems that you face. And I think, like, especially as women, because we're kind of programmed to have shut ourselves off from ourselves, it's even more important now than ever to allow your own feminine empowerment to be about allowing yourself to be fully, you know? Like, a woman in her power uses her emotional body as a way to discern what is right and what is true for her. And it is a strong, independent woman that works within the family system to guide that family towards what is in alignment for everyone, you know? And it's through attunement that makes sure that all members of that family are being provided for and are being cared for and are being heard, as opposed to having like these separate family systems where it's every man for himself. It takes strong feminine power, both embodied feminine and also in the more general sense of the divine feminine. It's that receptivity and that capacity to listen that is guiding us forward at this moment in history. We're collectively remembering that we can be powerful and we can also be emotional, and those things are so hand in hand that they should never have been separate, and it's a beautiful thing.
And it almost reminds me of like the yin and yang symbol. Like I feel like it it always has to be in equal balance.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't, if you have too much of one, it's gonna go one way. If you have too much of the other, it's gonna go another way. Obviously, that makes sense. I feel like that's like, but I feel like there's definitely been a huge imbalance in terms of, um, you know, I feel like people worry about like, oh, I'm gonna appear like people worry about other people too much. It's just what I don't know why I felt like I should say that, but it's like, oh, I'm gonna appear too emotional. I'm gonna appear weak. And emotions, like you were saying, should never be something that can make you appear weak or they should never make you feel weak. And I understand like in terms of like say you're having an argument and like, you know, I can understand like some people say they cry when they're upset or when they're angry. And when they do that, they feel like they're losing the argument. Which is I don't know why I felt like I had to say that. But just thinking about it, it's like that should never like make you feel like like, that shouldn't even make you feel weak.
Mm-hmm.
It should just be a release of emotions. It should be something like seen as positive and that oh I'm getting this off my chest. I'm really like I'm gonna have my moments and then I'm gonna use this and I guess you could say not do this again. I guess like maybe or come out better from the situation.
Mm-hmm.
But I had something else to say, but it went out my head again. So, but but anyways, thank you for this whole like podcast. I know we went through the time.
Yeah, we totally went over. We just got too into it.
Okay. But I feel like this was a really like meaningful like podcast today. I definitely learned a lot, and I feel like it was a really good conversation. But thank you for coming on and talking about this, and hopefully we have another interesting topic to talk about next week as well. And also please like and subscribe. Forgot to say that last time.
Yeah,
Wanted
like
to
and
get it
subscribe.
in. We'll be here next week at 7 again. And also, please look at any of the other podcasts we have on. You can see any of the previous podcasts, and there's another one tomorrow, as well as one on Tuesday. So please tune in for those. Anyways, thank you for watching, and thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much. Have a great night, everybody.
Bye.